Welcome to another Water Trek 360. Today we'll review 11 budget underwater spotlights, the criteria I used, how I uniformly tested, my findings, and my overall scores. This is a cross-section of lights found online. Use these reviews as a benchmark when considering other similar lights not reviewed. Do check out my previous video where I covered 9 other lights. As always, I do not represent any of these companies nor any other manufacturer I may reference. These opinions are my own. If you like these reviews, click subscribe, click like. For my basic criteria, I normally buy lights in pairs for helmet mounting and wreck diving in the cold, low-vis waters here in New England. I look for a low-cost, durable spotlight with lumen over 2000, a tight spot beam, and a good run-to-charge time ratio. For my rating criteria, I use 4 categories: cost, lights at $200 or less, with a cost scoring of 9.5 if it's $50 or less, with a half-point decrement for every increase of $50, reducing the score to an 8.0 if the cost is between $151 and $200. Next, durability. Things like quality of manufacture, points of failure, drop tests, button and battery protections, and water retention. Next, ease of use. Size, weight, switch type, lumen, runtime versus charge time, button sensitivity, remaining battery power indicator, and others. And lastly, versatility. The beam angle. Is it tight, diffuse, preferably under 10 degrees? Runtime on the highest lumen, number of switch modes, low visibility and helmet usage. Would I take it on a liveaboard, and does it match the specs? I did standardized testing for each sink, pool, topside, and open water tests in Long Island Sound. The final overall rating is an aggregate score from 1 to 10. To expedite the reviews, I don't cover the standard similarities like depth, IPX rating, and minimum accessories, etc. They're all compact lights except for the final 2. None of these are video lights. So let's check out these low-cost underwater spotlights. The XTAR DL02. It has a solid feel. It's a combo rotary dial button switch. You move left to lock and right to unlock. You button press to scroll through 1600 to 600 lumen and then a flashing strobe. Long press to turn on or off the green pointer. It has a tight 6-degree spot beam and a 60-degree flood. It lists a Kelvin of 6500 and a CRI of 70, and is a cool white. There is no memory function. The average runtime on high is 2 hours and 40 minutes. Charging took over 5.5 hours with the charger provided, but a little over 2 hours with a quick charge, giving it a less than average run to charge time ratio unless using a quick charger. It can be helmet mounted but is cumbersome to use as the lock tended to get stuck. It lists overcharge battery protection and does come with a protected battery. Has a single body cavity opening, has a remaining battery life indicator on the button, came with a carry case. It did have a decent performance and low visibility with a tight 6-degree beam, but the lumen was on the lower end for me here in New England. The green pointer was a nice feature. It has 2 prices, one with the battery kit, one without, at $99 and $120 respectively. I look at it as a backup light in clear water. Even with the green pointer, the long charge times and lower lumen bring the XTAR DL02 an 8.2. The Wurkkos DL03. This is a combination button paddle switch. Turn the paddle left for the green pointer beam and right for the white light. Press the button for on/off for both green and white lights. You scroll through lumen settings of 100, 500, 1200, and a turbo of 2800. Long pressing the button sets a memory function for the last used lumen before off. You must long hold the button to shut it off. It has no SOS or flashing light. There's no Kelvin listed, but is a cool white light. Has a spot beam of 26 degrees and a flood of 60 degrees. The run times on turbo average just under 50 minutes and just over 3 hours on high. Takes roughly 2 hours and 20 minutes to charge. The paddle switch is not suitable for a helmet. From a durability standpoint, it has several battery protections: low voltage, reverse polarity, and ATR, advanced temperature regulation. It has a remaining battery life indicator. There's multiple points of failure on the body, 2 threads, each with double O-rings. It has a Type-C port in the forward opening, which lets you reverse charge another device, say an iPhone. Interesting function. Comes with a carry case. The green pointer is a nice feature. The wider beam limits my use in low visibility, making it more suitable for clear water. It costs $60. Despite great battery protection, the really short runtime on turbo limits you to underpowered lumen at the lower settings. This puts the Wurkkos DL03 at an 8.3. The Sofirn SD08. The light has an interesting RGB feature. It's a rotary dial. Rotate to the right for lumen settings of 300, 1000, and 3200. Rotate to the left for the RGB mode. There is no flashing strobe, no memory function, no Kelvin or CRI listed, but is a cool white. Has a relatively tight 12-degree beam angle with a 72-degree flood. Runtime on high averaged under an hour and a half and just under 3 hours on medium. Charging time averaged 3 hours. There's no carry case and it's not practical for use with a helmet. It has reverse polarity, temperature regulation, battery protection, and a Type-C charging slot on the battery. The RGB ring doubles as a remaining battery life indicator. There's multiple points of failure on the body, 2 threads, each with double O-rings. It performed better than anticipated in low visibility with a tight beam and a 3200 lumen. The rotary dial was a bit stiff. This makes for a great handheld backup light. I do wish it had longer run times on high, again limiting me to 1000 lumen with higher lumen only when needed. Costs only $46, and with an interesting RGB feature as an optional tank beacon, the Sofirn SD08 gets an 8.6. The LetonPower Submariner 14S. It has a solid feel. There's a button switch with 6 modes, scrolling through super, high, medium, and low with a lumen of 2000, 1500, 1500, and then a rapid strobe and finally an SOS. There is no memory function. Claims a Kelvin of 5500 and there's no CRI listed. Has an 8-degree spot beam and a 72-degree flood. Easily fits on my helmet. Has a remaining battery life indicator. The average runtime on super was slightly over an hour and a half, and 3 hours on high at the 1500 lumen. The average charging time was just over 3 hours. Came with a carry case and a small tool for opening the Type-C opening and a wrist strap. Doesn't list any battery protections. There are 2 body openings, one at the rear with double O-ring, and one Type-C access point opposite the button switch. It did well in low visibility, nice tight beam. I would use this as my handheld or a backup light for my helmet, but not on the super setting. Costs only $36. I like the distinct 6 modes with the 2 modes of flashing beam and the really tight beam. I just wish it had longer run times on super, again limiting me to 1500 lumen. The Leton Submariner 14S comes in at 8.6. The Wurkkos DL30. It's a magnetic rotary ring with lumen settings of 300, 1300, and 3600. There is no SOS flashing light. It has a 21-degree spot beam and a 71-degree flood. It has a neutral Kelvin of 5000 and a CRI of 90. Run times on high averaged just over 1 hour and 40 minutes, and charge times averaged over 5 hours using the supplied charger, and just about 3 hours on a quick charger. There's no carry case. The rotary dial ring is not practical for helmet mounting, has no remaining battery life indicator on the switch. It lists battery protections of low voltage warning, reverse polarity protection, and ATR, advanced temperature regulation. It can also take an 18650 battery as well as a 21700, but why would you? It has 2 body thread openings, the back one for a Type-C charger. The 3600 is a higher lumen than most compacts and help compensate in the silty conditions for the little wider 21-degree beam, which is borderline for my normal preference. Be careful with the magnetic switch when traveling. They can go off if near a magnet. It's inexpensive at only $40. The poor run-to-charge time ratio pushes me to use a quick charger, consideration if you're on a liveaboard. With the extra lumen, it makes a good backup light hanging on my BC. The DL30 comes in at 8.7. The Wurkkos DL10R. It's a magnetic rotary ring with lumen settings of 600, 1800, and 4500. There is no SOS or strobe, has a 19-degree spot beam and a 78-degree flood. It has an unlisted Kelvin, but is a little warmer than the previously mentioned Wurkkos DL30. On high, it averaged 4 hours and 13 minutes. Charge times averaged 3.5 hours with the cable and just under 3 hours with a quick charger. There is no carry case. It is not practical for helmet mounting, and there is no remaining battery life indicator on the switch. It lists battery protections of low voltage warning, reverse polarity protection, and ATR, advanced temperature regulation, and voltage step down. It has 2 body thread openings with the back one for a Type-C cable. As mentioned, be careful with the magnetic switch when traveling. They can go on easily if near a magnet. The 4500 is higher lumen than most compacts. The 19-degree beam angle is at the upper range of what I consider for my spotlights, but the 4500 lumen made up for that. It's only $50 and has a good run-to-charge time ratio on high, especially when using a quick charger. With the higher 4500 lumen and the extra battery protections, this is a solid light for clear water. The DL10R gets an 8.9. The LetonPower Submariner 16. This is a locking slider switch starting with a lumen of roughly 500 up to 2000. There is no strobe or memory function. Claims a Kelvin of 5500 and there is no CRI listed. Has a tight 8-degree spot beam and a 20-degree flood. It's not recommended for helmet use. It has a remaining battery life indicator on the body. The average runtime on high was slightly over 6 hours. That was impressive. Average charging time was roughly 2 hours and 10 minutes. Came with a carry case. Doesn't list any battery protections. Has double body threads, the one at the rear, and an additional Type-C thread behind the headlight. It did really well on low visibility. The super tight beam was effective. I would use this as a handheld or backup light only due to the slider in clear or silty water. Costs $50. With the long runtime, great run-to-charge time ratio, and overall simplicity, the Leton Submariner comes in at 9.1. The Odepro SD1500. You press the raise button switch with two lumen settings of 1500 and 450. You long press for the flashing strobe. Off is part of the button cadence, so you don't have to long hold it. Has a super tight beam of 6.5 degrees and a 47-degree flood. Has no Kelvin or CRI listed, but is a cool white. There is no memory function. Has above average run times, just over 9 hours with the expected dimming, and an average charge time of only 3.5 hours. It was usable with my helmet. Has a remaining battery life indicator on the switch. It actually came with a spare battery, which is unusual. It has overheat, reverse polarity, and low voltage battery protections, although with the extreme runtime, over discharge isn't one of them. Has a single body cavity opening. Didn't come with the carry case. It did better than expected in low visibility on high with a super tight beam, which compensated for the lower lumen. It kind of punches over its weight class. It only costs $47. Even with the lower lumen, the super long runtime, tight beam, and extra battery protections makes this a great handheld light for those needing a cheap, durable option. The Odepro SD1500 comes in at 9.2. The PFSN DF35. This has a solid feel. The button switch goes from low to high with lumen of 800, 1800, and 3500. You long press to shut the light off. You double press for a flashing strobe. Has a locking function by rapidly pressing the button 5 times. Has a memory function for last lumen used at shutoff. Claims a Kelvin of 6500 and a CRI of 90. Lists an 8-degree spot beam and a 75-degree flood. Easily fit on my helmet. Has a remaining battery life indicator. Super long run times on high, up to 9 hours, again with the anticipated dimming. The average charge time was 3.5 hours. Has some battery protections for overcharge and short circuit, but obviously not for over discharge with the extended runtime. Has no carry case. Has a single body thread at the rear. PFSN DF35 did great in low visibility. Nice tight beam. I have used this as a handheld and as a primary light on my helmet, especially in tight conditions like inside a wreck. It costs only $40. I like the gold brass ring coloring. This is a great light. The awesome charge to runtime ratio, really tight beam, and high 3500 lumen brings the PFSN DF35 in at a 9.5. The PFSN DF60G. This is not a compact light. It's actually on the maximum edge for helmet use for me. It has a depth rating of 150 meters. It lists an 8-degree spot beam and a 75-degree flood. The button switch goes from low to high with lumen of 600, 2000, and 5500. You double press for the flashing strobe and long press to shut it off. Has a locking function by rapidly pressing the button 5 times. Has a memory function for last lumen used at shutoff. Claims a Kelvin of 6500 and a CRI of 90. It has a remaining battery life indicator. Unfortunately, it has short run times on high, averaging only 70 minutes, and around 5 hours on medium. It takes two 26650 batteries. Shockingly, the charge time was anywhere from 8 to over 10 plus hours, using their dual charger. Per PFSN, this was by design. The light has low battery protections, short circuit, overcharge, and reverse polarity protection. Came with a wrist strap, but this is a bit cumbersome for the size of the light. Has a single body thread behind the light head with triple O-ring protection. While the high lumen was bright, It wasn't great in low visibility. The spot beam was more diffuse than I anticipated. I questioned the spec showing 10 degrees. I would use this as a handheld in clear water. It costs $80, but the short runtime on high is a major hit, limiting usage to the 2000 lumen. Regardless, the poor run to charge time ratio with well over 10 hours for recharging makes it impractical, especially on a liveaboard. This puts the PFSN DF60G at a 7.0. The LetonPower Submariner 26S. This is also not a compact and is at the upper range of what I use on my helmet. It has a button switch with 5 modes, scrolling through high, medium, low, with a lumen of 5000, 3000, and 1500. Then a rapid strobe and finally an SOS. There is no memory function. Claims a Kelvin of 5500 and a CRI of 90. It has a tight 8-degree spot beam and a 60-degree flood. The 26S is at the upper range of what I would use on my helmet. It did not come with a carry case. It has a remaining battery life indicator. The average runtime on high was about 5 hours and 8 to 10 on medium. The average charging time was between 4 and 5 hours. The two 26-650 batteries are in a case and are not replaceable. You need to contact Leton in order to get a replacement. The 26S lists a heat dissipation battery protection feature, has a single body thread at the rear with double O-ring protection and a Type-C port connector. It did really well in low visibility. The nice, tight, well-defined beam and the higher than average lumen were great. It cost between $80 and $100. I like the 5 distinct modes as a solid feel. The super tight beam, long run times on high, has made this another one of my primary helmet lights in low visibility and night diving. The Leton Submariner 26S, for me, comes in at 9.5. Well, I hope you found these reviews useful. If so, use them as a reference when you shop for your next light. Let me know what you think in the comments. Regardless of whether these are budget spotlights or not, they should work as advertised. I'd be more critical of expensive lights where the cash outlay is even greater and my expectations higher. As I said, you may have different needs and preferences than me. My standardized ratings are based on my needs and personal experience. I will leave a link in the description for the detailed review of each light, where I simply gave a thumbs up or thumbs down. I was surprised where a few of these landed from what I remembered after I applied a more objective criteria. Do check out the discount codes in the description. Save yourself some money. So there you have it, my friends. As always, stay safe in your dive adventures, and remember, go explore, get wet,